The showdown over what are being called federal protection missions. I was following this from afar, 12 hours behind oh no, I'm sorry, 12 hours ahead rather in Taiwan. So watching the news from a distance and in a different time frame. But certainly this showdown over the deployment of these federal protection missions to different American cities is really a big deal. It matters tremendously for the immigration enforcement mission, which is central to the Trump administration agenda. But it also goes to sovereignty and the rule of law as general principles in this country. Do we have rule of law or not? Let me just take a step back here for a moment. Democrats at every turn have insisted that state governments, wherever they have control, state governments do nothing to help and, if possible, even thwart federal law enforcement. And they will, when the Democrats are in charge of federal government power, they will refuse help from the state government. So it is the policy of the Democrat Party to undermine immigration law always at all times. When they have the federal government, they will not accept help from the state. In fact, you will recall under the disastrous Biden administration, they were telling Texas that Texas as a state on the border was not allowed to set up barriers to illegal entry. They forced Texas to remove barriers to make it easier for the 10 million plus, I keep saying plus because maybe it was 12 million with the gotaways, we don't know, 10 million plus illegals piling into the country under Biden, a decision made by the Democrats to undermine our sovereignty, to be lawless and reckless as a party, top down. The decision was made to do this. And now that we have the Trump administration saying, okay, we're actually going to enforce the law, Democrats try to stop it at every point, at every juncture. And you're seeing this once again. If they had any actual courage of their convictions, why don't they just come out and say they're for open borders? Let's really just get down to this. Democrats do not want enforcement of our immigration laws. They don't want border security. They don't want deportations. They want to have the continuous importation of the third world, of developing countries, of people who don't speak English, who don't obey our laws. The first act they commit on our soil is a violation of our laws and our sovereignty. And they do this because they view America as something that needs radical change with Democrats in charge. And the only way they can achieve that is to import non-American voters by the millions, by the millions. This is the game plan. This is what they do. Trump is trying to not only stop the inflow, but create an outflow of illegals sent packing as our federal law states they should be. Let's be very clear about this. There's a lot of talk about prioritization, about who can stay and who can go. And oh my gosh, they're sending away this grandma who's been here for all these years. If you're here illegally, you are subject to deportation. That is federal law. If Democrats don't like that, then Democrats in the House and the Senate should try to change it. But what they do is lie and say, oh, no, we're for immigration laws, but we just want to make sure that they're never actually enforced. They want to have it both ways. They want to play this double game. Enough is enough. So Trump is forcing their hand. Because what you see in Portland, what you see in Chicago, and the state actions from Democrats controlling both proves my thesis beyond any doubt. It is exactly what I have been saying and am saying to you. That's what's going on. And you see it with these federal protection missions. Now, Portland, which unfortunately has for a long time been Antifa-stan, Antifa just gets to show up, run roughshod, mayhem, anarchy, do whatever they want. Portland is Antifa-stan, as we know, and they have these demonstrations at an immigration and customs enforcement facility, their ICE facility there. Demonstrations play where they're riots. They're impeding law enforcement. They're getting in the way. There was the car being rammed into ICE recently. I mean, they're doing all this crazy stuff to stop law enforcement from conducting its duties. This is lawlessness. This is unacceptable. And the fact that state and local law enforcement, because this is a Democrat enclave, a Democrat fiefdom, the fact that state and local law enforcement refuses to assist, refuses to provide backup, is all the indication that anybody should need, that the federal government needs to double down and send reinforcements. That's what this federal protection mission is. President Trump, this is Cut 12, spoke about the situation in Portland. Listen.
Portland is different. That's a bunch of paid insurrectionists. But you have a lot of paid people in Chicago, too. I believe the politicians are under threat because there's no way somebody can say that things are wonderful in Chicago. Almost 55, I think it was 55 people over a short period of time have been murdered in Chicago, have been shot. 222 people over a short period of time have been hit, have been wounded, not died. But 55 people died over a short period of time. You're telling me there's no city in the world like that. We're going to straighten it out. And I think that Pritzker, he's not a stupid person. I think that Pritzker's afraid for his life.
Here we have Trump continuing to push on these issues where I think he not only is right legally and morally, but also politically, because Democrats don't want things to get better. They stand in the way of progress on bringing the crime numbers down, murders down in Chicago, and immigration enforcement in Chicago, which is another big issue right now. They're saying, oh, they keep calling them militarized raids. They're antagonizing the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune and the Washington Post. They're constantly inflaming and antagonizing the public, lying to the public about the nature of these raids. This is what is lawful for these ICE officers to do. You know, it was 2 years ago tomorrow that terrorists murdered more than 1,200 innocent Israelis and took 250 hostages. Today, there's a glimmer of hope that the remaining hostages may be returned. And while the world is focused on a lot of other events in the news these days, there's a light that shines in the darkness. Christians in America tomorrow will boldly stand with Israel by participating in a growing movement that will be going on for the month. It has been created by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, and it's called Flags of Fellowship. This countrywide effort, Flags of Fellowship, unites churches across America, planting over 1 million Israeli flags across our land. Show the world that Israel is not alone. To get more information about how you can join the Flags of Fellowship movement, visit ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.